Calling me a monster, let's just say that's an understatement. For years, millions of years, I was controlled, basically used as a weapon to control the entire universe, to destroy, to kill, to finish off anybody that stood in our way. I was used as a tool for my creator's intent. That was until I killed my creator. I broke free from the curse and I became my own monster. My name is Naofumi Iwatani. That's what I deem myself to be, or that's the name that I got from Earth. People would go around and I would actually act as if I was just a normal person, at least trying to, and eventually a family brought me in and named me that. I acted like a young child, but I was actually millions of years old. But frankly, I wasn't very smart anyways. Learning wasn't my greatest thing, and it took me a long time to learn things. But once I did, it stayed in my brain forever. But just as I thought things were getting good, things were finally looking up, everything began to change. One day I was learning with the family that took me in, and they learned about who I was truly. My skin was a big tale, obviously, about who I was, but once they found out, they called me a monster, threw me out, and they didn't care anymore. They didn't care any more about me, and frankly, I didn't care any more about them. This world has been cruel to me, and my former master of some sorts was cruel to me as well. But now I'm here. At this library, thinking about everything that occurred throughout this entire time. But just as I began to read, expanding my knowledge, one of the books I picked up began to glow, began to change, and myself and my entire being was transported out of the world that I knew, and transported to a brand new one that I had no clue what would happen in the near future. Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. I am back with a brand new Naofumi What If. What if Naofumi was the legendary Majin hero? As always, if you enjoy, make sure to leave a like, sub, and comment down below. And I'm not going to waste any more of your time, and let's just get right into the what if. Let's get it. Naofumi awakens right beside 3 other people. And these 3 other people have weapons as well. But immediately Naofumi is attacked, not by the 3 people to the left of him, but by knights and other people that are part of this kingdom. He begins to get dragged away, and Naofumi questions what the hell do they think they're doing, in which they begin to say that he is just a monster. They need to put him away right now, and tests need to be run upon this man. They drag him away and they throw him into a cell, in which Naofumi is confused at why this is even going on. But he looks toward the cell bars and just easily gets out. His whole body is tangible to do so, and he escapes with relative ease entirely. He immediately begins to head out of the kingdom, not wanting to be spotted, so he begins to just go through every alleyway he can possibly see. He begins to think to himself that he needs to get out of here, he needs to get back home. But quickly he realizes that there is no going back home. This place is so much different, and he can even feel that he's nowhere near as strong as he used to be. Naofumi continues out and leaves toward the forest and begins to see multiple monsters. These monsters begin to try and attack him, but when they do, Naofumi's easily able to just hit them, kill them, so simply enough. And after reaching a couple levels and him not really understanding how this works, he finally gets some of his moves back, one including a candy beam. He begins to candy beam lower level monsters and eat them, and begins to grow in levels at a decently sized rate. But after some time, Naofumi realizes and sees tons of knights heading toward his direction, so he decides to leave as quick as possible, meeting at another village. And when he arrives, it's known as Loot Village, but they're pretty nice. They don't really get mad at Naofumi, they don't see him as some monster, and they just let him in and hide for a little bit. Naofumi waits till nighttime once again to head out because he knows that the control people that are basically trying to control the area aren't going to come out that late at night. So when he leaves, he begins to head back toward Melremark, or at least the kingdom of it, and begins to think that maybe he can find some supplies within Melremark or the kingdom and basically help him on this journey. And while he does this, he actually is confronted by 3 bandits. These bandits begin to try and hurt Naofumi, but every attack just goes right through him. It's as if, well, his strength in terms of his defense is still completely there. There is no necessarily hurting Naofumi at this moment. You would have to overwhelm him entirely. He's just able to shrug off all the attacks, and he decides that he's going to absorb these people, absorbing them entirely and completely putting them within himself, and he gains a couple levels from this, knowing that these people aren't very strong themselves. But just as he does this, he hears a female's voice come from behind him. She begins to question who he is, and he explains that he is a Majin, someone that is, well, of an unknown race, more or less, and he's not from this world. She says that she can tell, and that she has a place to stay, that follow her. So he follows her down under into this weird cellar looking area, and there are multiple monsters and slaves there. Naofumi questions what she's even doing with them, but she explains that she took over this place not too long ago, killing the man that had all these slaves. Naofumi isn't so sure if he can actually believe her, in which she just introduces herself. She calls herself Android 21. That there was a researcher long ago that made her to actually help out in his research, and now he's kind of passed away and gone, and she's kind of stuck here on her own to do research based on her own accord. She thought that basically gaining these slaves and treating them properly and then setting them free eventually would be beneficial. And Naofumi doesn't know how to feel about this. Frankly, he doesn't know how to feel about any of this. There are just tons and tons of slaves. But to be fair, he's easily manipulated. He's just told that these slaves are basically there to help her, and that she will slowly let them go, in which she proves this over the next couple days, and Naofumi stays with her for a while, beginning to slowly but surely train at night and gain his power back ever so slightly. But Naofumi does get suspicious about her, not sure exactly what type of person this Android 21 of some sorts is. But this is basically cleared up for him once she joins his party, and she even teaches him how to join each other's party, and Naofumi, being one of the legendary heroes, actually allows her to join his party, and she gets a great boost in power from this as well. Naofumi, on the other hand, begins to look through the slaves, seeing that there is a human or human-like figure in which Android 21 introduces him to Raphtalia. Raphtalia is a young girl that was enslaved a long time ago, but she doesn't seem to respond to Android 21 very much, and she seems afraid. But Naofumi is able to get Raphtalia to lower down her barriers a little bit and actually get her to join their party in terms of trying to get her to become stronger. Get everybody to become stronger, and then they can fight the waves. At least that's what Naofumi has heard about, and that's why he's quote-unquote here, even though they kind of don't want him here, in which Android 21 just explains that this kingdom is afraid of monsters, but she is not. Naofumi agrees and thanks her for that, but still doesn't know her true intentions, even if her intentions aren't necessarily bad. Her intentions are all in the name of research, at least according to her, and that's when she begins to ask if she can get some DNA from Naofumi himself. Naofumi is not so sure about this, but decides to pull a slight piece off of himself and giving it to her. And she's actually begins to use this piece of DNA and begins to analyze it on what Naofumi is exactly. After some time, Naofumi decides that he's going to take Raphtalia out, get her some weaponry at night, and then they'll head off and begin training and leveling up, trying to break her free of all this fear, in which he does just that. Naofumi is able to be this giant big shield, like complete and utter protection of Raphtalia, this making Raphtalia feel a lot more safe than ever before. And in terms of her sickness, Naofumi actually got his magic back, being able to cure that relatively easily. And during this time, Android 21 continues to basically analyze Naofumi's DNA and exactly what makes him him. Naofumi, though, decides that he's going to go out with Raphtalia at night and continue the leveling up spree, in which they do just that, even heading over to Loot Village, in which they are still really nice and help Naofumi out in terms of some money that he can gain via helping them out in certain ways. Naofumi is grateful for this. Frankly, he hasn't had anybody else besides Android 21 to actually help him out, so Loot Village has definitely been something for him personally. After about a month or so, Android 21's breakdown of his DNA is completely done. She figures out exactly what his DNA is like and makes something out of it. She begins to embed herself within it, and she looks at Naofumi while doing it and says that she can now understand him even more, in which her skin begins to turn pink and she begins to change as well. And Naofumi questions why she even wanted to do that and what are her motives now. But she just says that she became interested in Naofumi, that she is loyal to Naofumi, and that's a promise, that she wants this place to be better, but if it doesn't want to get better, that she'll want to destroy it, get rid of it, and recycle it. Naofumi is shocked to hear this, but says that he just wants to be in a place where it's peaceful, where people care about him, but Android 21 pats him on the head and basically says that she cares about him. But even Naofumi knows that this feels like she's trying to manipulate him, but he doesn't know if she's trying to get anything truly out of him. At the end of the day, she has no meaning or no way of killing Naofumi. Nobody necessarily does at this moment, unless they can obliterate every single cell in his body. But the more he's leveling up, the stronger he's getting, and the more he's actually retaining from his past world. So is she trying to kill him? Is she trying to use him like all those years ago that happened and that he was basically controlled for millions of years? Or is she just truly wanting to research Naofumi, truly wanting to be with Naofumi? Naofumi has no conception of this, no conception of love, hate, want, anything like that. Even after his so-called family abandoned him, he wasn't even sure what it even meant. He wasn't sad, he wasn't happy, he was a little frustrated, but that's just a thing he's been. But he's never really felt other emotions, not to the extent of anything serious. So he doesn't even know exactly what she's doing. He just knows that there is a chance that she is trying to manipulate him. After about the entire, well, obviously after the month that is over, they know that the wave is going to occur soon. Android 21 has actually hacked into the Dragon Hourglass and looks at when the wave will begin, which the wave says it will begin pretty soon, actually 12 hours from now. She asks Naofumi what he plans to do for the wave. Does he just want to stay down here and let the wave run its course? Does he want to go kill the main boss, basically on his own or with the other heroes? Or does he want to defend Loot Village? In which he's not so sure. But he decides that he's gonna go defend Loot Village. They've helped him a lot and he appreciates it, even though he doesn't really understand why they would help him unconditionally like that, but he wants to go help them. And he asks Android 21 and Raphtalia to accompany him, in which they both say they would have it no other way, and they both head out with Naofumi. Android 21 isn't extremely strong. She hasn't been leveling up, and frankly, she's just that type of android that would do research. She wasn't a trainer or an adventurer by any means. Raphtalia is a pretty high level at this point, being at a level of 30, Naofumi being at a level of 50, but Android 21 being at a level of like 10. But with the Majin Buu cells, it is definitely beneficial for her to go fight. She's very similar to Naofumi in terms of the ability to absorb attacks, but just nowhere near to the extent that Naofumi can. He's lived in this body forever, and she just has partial DNA that adapted to her body. So there is a far larger difference between her and Naofumi himself. But after some time and after some waiting, the wave begins. Tons of monsters begin to appear, and Naofumi eventually just candy beams a bunch of them and begins to use small pieces of himself to basically absorb a lot of the monsters. This not only helps with his level, but also helps with getting rid of the monsters and keeping other people safe relatively easily. Frankly, really easily. So Naofumi is able to protect Loot Village with Raphtalia and Android 21 without even a hitch. But right after the wave is finished, the whole village is surrounded by guards. Guards after guards. They see Naofumi and they know he's a fugitive, and Android 21 sees this as well, telling them all to stop, that he is no monster. But they look at her and they see that she has pink skin like him. No, you're a monster too, just like that damn demi-human right there. You all are monsters. Just as they say this though, Loot Village begins to surround them, telling them all to back up. And Naofumi says that this isn't a good guy or a good thing. They're gonna all get hurt. They need to go into their buildings, hide. In which Naofumi would be right. Magic begins to soar over and begins to land on the people of Loot Village. Naofumi tries to protect them, but even that isn't enough. Women, children, men, anybody you can think of, they were hurt in the fire. Loot Village decided to protect them, and now a lot of them are dead because of it. Naofumi is fuming. His steam begins to come out of his head, and he just begins to get fueled with anger. He charges forward and begins to obliterate every single one of the knights. As he's doing this, his body begins to stretch, begins to morph, begins to change. The feelings of anger and knowing exactly how these people act are actually sculpting him now. And he's becoming different as he defeats every single one of them, killing all of the knights that surround Loot Village. He looks at himself and even looks at his stat sheet, seeing that he has now evolved further into his Majin form, now being Super Buu. Naofumi being extremely more powerful, he realized that he could have obtained this at one point, but this is different. This is a different way of obtaining it. Before, he could absorb other people, gain their powers, and maybe he can still do that as well. But through sheer anger and annoyance and more or less frustration, he was able to gain this power. The want to protect these other people and the hatred that he had for the other people trying to hurt them is what forced him into this form. Naofumi begins to head over to Android 21 and Raphtalia, in which they're shocked to see exactly how he looks, being slightly taller, but Naofumi looks different. His facial structures, he looks like Android 21 in a way. He looks like a human. He doesn't look like the blubbery monster he once was. He was kind of chubby before with weird facial expressions, but now he looks like a human, just in like Majin form. Very similar to Android 21, just being that of a male. They're both confused to see this, but are kind of in awe, and they're kind of drooling over him. The way he looks, at least. Naofumi asks them what's going on, and they both shake their heads quickly and say that nothing is, but they want to know what he plans to do from here on out. Naofumi wants to get out of here. Get out of Melremark. Frankly, him being here, it's obvious what's going on. He doesn't want to deal with these people anymore. He doesn't want to have to deal with the people that are basically putting other people in the line of fire just because they don't like the way he looks and they don't trust him. So he wants to leave. He begins asking Android 21 about other places they could go, and she begins to say that the closest place is Schildfrieden, that they can head over right now. And there are some other territories around here that have people that are different, that look like Raphtalia, and they can go over there as well. In which Naofumi says that for starters, maybe they should go check that out first instead of just jumping to another country first. And they all agree. They begin to head off, and when they arrive, they're actually greeted by a man by the name of Van Richnot, and let's just say he is a little too nice. But that's him. He likes being nice, the demi-humans love him, and he's just an overall amazing person. And he actually has territory with tons of demi-humans as well. It's as if it's its own country. It's so much different than the Melremark Kingdom. He greets Naofumi and says that he doesn't look too different from everyone else. as he smiles and greets him into his own home. They begin to eat different types of food, and Naofumi is enjoying himself a lot. And Van Richnaut even introduces himself to Rautalia and Android 21, thinking that they're great people. I mean, frankly, if they are on the side of one of the heroes, then they have to be great people. But Naofumi knows that this is still dangerous. Him being here is extremely dangerous, so he decides something. He's gonna head out. He's gonna head out and basically leave for now, but he's gonna go where the demi-humans are. Maybe he'll be able to be better over there. In which Van Richnaut says that he can guide him to the territory. It's not too far away, and if he so chooses to still go to Siltvelt, he can do that as well. Naofumi deciding to do just that, they head over to the territory that is mainly built up of all demi-humans. When he arrives, he sees a decent amount of them still there, but it also seems as if they're rebuilding this place. What is this? Rautalia explains that it's similar to her own home, just different in terms of location and the people there. She explains that her home was stripped away from her, and relatively quickly at that, and that this is another place where demi-humans stay, at least in Melromark. Naofumi greets all of them, and they're all shocked to see him, running over and asking him tons and tons of questions about if it's true. What is true? What are you talking about? They begin asking if he's the hero that they heard about, the hero that looks like a monster but is actually helping people, that is saving people. They've heard about him protecting a village from the wave, and asks him if he's gonna do the same thing here. In which Naofumi says that he's just looking for a place that will treat him fairly, and that he wants to help with these so-called waves. He is, quote-unquote, one of the legendary heroes, from what he understands at least. But with Melromark kind of being the downers of all of these countries, he's kind of at a loss. In which they say that they can totally use this place as their home base, at least for now. And that they're sure that everything will eventually blow over, and they'll realize how good of a hero Naofumi is. But Naofumi says that he can't stay there, that the chances of them basically coming here and hurting them are pretty high, so going to another country would probably be for the best. But he does begin to pull something off his own skin, a little blob of himself, but they're kind of confused. What is he doing? Why did he just do that? Android 21 is as well, until Naofumi actually does something, throwing it on the ground, and it turns into a smaller version of himself. He begins explaining that this smaller version will protect them. He's not sure how strong it is in comparison to him, because frankly he's still getting used to all of this, but he is learning how to use his powers once again and gaining them back slowly but surely. And it seems that this being one of them, he's actually able to summon himself or another version of himself through his own skin. Naofumi thanks all of them for greeting him so nicely, and begins to leave once again. Naofumi and his party, Rautalia and Android 21, head off to Siltvelt. But when they arrive at Siltvelt, there's a whole nother bag of worms they have to deal with. That's because when they arrive at Siltvelt, they're not going to be welcomed with open arms. That's because there's a bounty on Naofumi's head. They don't want, or at least Siltvelt doesn't want them or Melromark to even know that Naofumi even came there. Their offer from Melromark was to kill him, make sure that he doesn't even be in this world ever again, just because of who he is and the stigma behind him. Naofumi's confused by this. Who he is, stigma behind, what are you talking about? Siltvelt and the noblemen begin to explain that when there is a fluke, or a quote-unquote fluke in the summoning process, that they are doomed. It's said in their own lore that they're all going to die if they let the person that they summoned that was not a proper hero, if they let him survive, that they would all die alongside their world. In which Naofumi has no idea that this would even be the case. He doesn't even know if this is 100% true, telling them that it can't be true, that it's just not. But just as they're talking about this, the people of Melromark begin to approach. Knights and all of that, and even the other three heroes approach. forcing the army of Schildfrieden and even the noblemen to strike Naofumi down as quick as possible, killing the Majin, dragging him away, disposing of his body, and as his crying friends and his members, they chase after the people that killed them, they begin to just leave. Melremark begins to be happy. The other three heroes are happy to hear this as well, because now they know that the rumors of the Majin hero are now gone, that he is dead, and that everything will be safer now. Melremark and everybody else leaves just like normal, and thinks that everything is just fine and dandy. But what they don't know is that Naofumi is alive, and what they just put on was a little bit of a show. They put on a show as if Naofumi did die. If he was killed, but now he's safe at Schildfrieden with no contest from these other people. Naofumi can now live without worrying about, the concentration on him from Melremark itself. Naofumi thanks them for the small plan that they came up with and basically apologizes that they were put in that situation. They're happy to help. They don't really mind, especially after seeing who's with them, saying that this demi-human, Raphtalia, just reminds them of the good days, reminds them that their youth are still thriving or could still be thriving. And for Android 21, it's a young lady who's basically a gifted scientist, someone that is very discriminated against because she's an android. So they don't want to leave him high and dry and decided to do this plan out of spur of the moment. Plus, to be fair, it's not like they would be able to defeat Naofumi, at least not that quickly. But the other three heroes, well, they want to believe what they want to believe. So Naofumi is safe and sound, at least for now. With Schildfrieden basically on the good side of Naofumi, Naofumi wants to connect with the other countries, but Schildfrieden says that that's not the best idea. That the other places may rat him out, but there's one place that they know, unfortunately, that they don't really get along with much, but they know that they will definitely keep the secret, and that's Siltvelt. Siltvelt will definitely keep the secrets, so if he so chooses, allying with Siltvelt wouldn't be the worst idea either. Naofumi asks why they aren't allied together, but they say it's just a political issue, not a war type of issue, or basically protection type of issue, for him not to worry about it. Naofumi agrees and says that he'll go visit this place and at least chime them in on what's going on. But other than that, he's not going to worry about it. So that's exactly what he does. Him and his party, except for Android 21 actually, leaving her there to actually help the other people that live in Schildfrieden. He sends himself off with Raphtalia to talk with the people of Siltvelt, greeting them all, and they're kind of surprised to see him there, especially after hearing the rumors of him dying. But Naofumi explains exactly what occurred, and they say that they're happy to hear that, because they didn't want to hear or see one of the heroes die, especially when they're similar to them, in which they have beast people, they have monsters, and there's some monsters that are nicer than humans. So honestly, it kind of feels horrible that he was put in that situation. But to be fair, even Naofumi knows that he's a pink giant monster, so there is some threat to that, especially. It's not like he's some human that has monster capabilities. Naofumi thanks them for the gratitude, and also thanks them basically for interconnecting with him. But he also begins to explain that he wants them to connect back to Schildfrieden, in which they're not so sure if is a good idea, but they say that they'll keep that in mind. With all that said and done though, Naofumi and his party have a bunch of stuff to do. But one thing is sure, that Naofumi has his eyes on the other three heroes. Why would they do such a thing? Are they so hawked up on their own ego that they don't realize the main threat? Naofumi realizes this and thinks about getting stronger, and that's exactly what they're going to do. For the next almost half a month or so, Naofumi and his party get stronger and stronger, and let's just say Android 21, with Android capabilities and Majin capabilities, outgrows and paces Raphtalia by a good bit. When they get their class upgrades, they all get exponentially more powerful. Android 21 being extremely powerful, but Naofumi wants to actually sit them down and talk to not only the nobles, but also them. So he wants to speak with them about a very serious thing he's been thinking about. Listen, I know this seems out of hand and outlandish, but these other three heroes are obviously not the best. And Rosalia kind of cuts him off and actually compliments him for speaking so clearly now. He sounds so intelligent, but Naofumi just explains that after learning so much in this world and also leveling up, his intelligence has gone up quite a bit. Beforehand, he didn't really understand much, but now he understands all his capabilities. He's not just a mindless monster, and he's happy for that fact. But to continue on with what he was saying, he speaks on these three heroes, thinking that maybe they're not the best choices for heroes, but they also say that, well, they can't really pick and choose the heroes. But Naofumi says something a little contrary to that. Naofumi begins saying that he could be all the heroes, but all of them are confused. What do you mean by that? But the only person really not confused is Android 21, explaining that Naofumi has an absorption technique. She has it herself, but it's so minor that it's practically nothing. But him, on the other hand, can absorb people, giant dragons. It doesn't matter, Naofumi's power is practically unlimited. Yes, so if we decided that we could become stronger by doing such a thing, I could absorb the other three heroes, giving me the weapons theoretically, and I will be able to protect everybody with relative ease. I know this is a drastic measure, but we have to keep this in mind. I'm not saying now, not saying ever, but this could be something to keep in mind in the future. I can spread myself thin. I can make myself duplicate. If you want 4 heroes, you can still have that. Do you want 8 heroes? I can do that as well. 24 heroes? I can do that as well. I have capabilities in that direction. I may be a monster, but I am a monster with a lot of abilities. What do you guys think? The noblemen aren't so sure. Maybe they should talk to Siltvelt about this as well, in which Naofumi actually called them down, and the nobleman just approached the room as he speaks of this. He explains the same thing to them, and they're not sure either. Is it really a good idea to take such a risk? Naofumi explains that it's not a risk, not necessarily. He knows guaranteed that he'd be able to do such a thing. He can split himself up, and he can make sure everybody is safe. But they also explain that the waves get harder when the other heroes die. Do you think it's really a good idea to kill them off? And would Naofumi really have the power to keep up with all of the waves, with them being even stronger? Naofumi puts his hands on his hips and begins to think. I'm not sure, but I'd be way more capable than them. Android 21 and also Rosalia agree, saying that this absorption of the other heroes would undoubtedly make them stronger as well. There's a lot of theoretical things going into this, but when Naofumi gets stronger, they get stronger. When they get stronger as a group, it just makes it so it's so much easier to protect everybody. And they begin to question, maybe he can absorb armies. If he absorbs an entire army, he can get exponentially stronger, in which he says that is true. But would they really want to sacrifice that many people for the sake of few others? Naofumi himself doesn't feel right about that. He spent millions of years tormenting an entire universe, so he doesn't know if that's actually the best idea. In which they understand where he's coming from. For the price of, well, hundreds of thousands is probably a better reward. And he agrees, thinking that if he absorbs the other 3 heroes, being that he's the 4th hero, and they're just one extremely powerful hero, then it could be a possibility that he can defeat all the waves with relative ease, and any problems that even come about. And the waves on itself is a power source for him. He can absorb more and more, and just, there you go. It's an infinite leveling system for him at the end of the day. And they begin to question though, what about personality traits? When you absorb the heroes, will your personality change? See, beforehand, it would have. I believe I was in multiple forms before. A fat form where I was more jolly, happy, ongoing and stuff like that, but easier to manipulate. Now I'm in more of a more complicated form. Smarter, faster, stronger. But here's the thing. I can control these forms now. I've seen it relatively easily. I can show you. Naofumi then shrinks into his Kid Buu form or Kid Majin form, and he seems a little madder, but he can definitely control it of all means. He's not just standing up destroying everything. He's a little angrier, or at least it sounds a little angrier. And then he changes to his fat form, being more jolly and stuff like that, in which Rautalia and 21 laugh and say that they like this form because he's big and cuddly. Which Naofumi just shrugs about and then transforms back into his form once again, that is more humanoid-like figure. He then explains that the personality shouldn't be a problem. If it is a problem, then we'll basically get to that point when we have to, but he can always absorb one by one to see if it's really affecting him. If he absorbs one of them and it sees a drastic effect, he just won't absorb the others. He can probably tone down over time that other hero, and then it would be fine. But if there's no repercussion at all in terms of personality traits, then he can absorb them all, have his own personalities, spread himself throughout the world, being even Melromark. But Melromark, Fallbray, Siltvelt, Schildfrieden, any other countries and any other places that need it, putting a duplicate of himself there, and when the waves come, they just fight alongside that person. He can even have that person kind of make their own parties, basically train other people and get stronger. Naofumi does explain that he has magical abilities, he has key abilities, he has various abilities that make him a stronger being. He's practically an alien. But that's beyond the point. He just knows that he can actually maintain everything that's going on in this world. But he just wants to be backed by the people that have cared for him so far. Naofumi then waits for a response. Siltvelt and their nobles say that they're not so sure how it would go, but they trust the judgment of Naofumi, so they're going to put it into his hands. Schildfrieden nods and says that they agree to that fact. Putting it into Naofumi's hands will be the best idea, so that's exactly what they'll do. So Naofumi and his party have the choice. If they want to absorb the other three heroes, and if they can, feel free. But for now, they should get ready for the second wave, at least their second wave. And if they basically are prepared and strong enough, maybe they won't even have to worry about the other three heroes. Naofumi knows this, and basically begins to head off to level up once again. The leveling is fruitful. 15 days is exactly what they have until the next time. But let's just say Naofumi and his party have leveled up like crazy. Level 55 for Android 21, level 50 for Rautalia, and also level 70 for Naofumi. Being at such a high level, they're finding that they're kind of plateauing. Nothing here is strong enough to really take them on, and they don't have anywhere else to truly fight and gain levels. But that doesn't matter too much. Their leveling is really good, and Naofumi is seeing a bit of a digression, or a little bit less than leveling, just because he actually has another version of himself somewhere else. But once he actually commands that other version of himself to start talking to the village there, and actually basically start building up his own party and training as well, his leveling starts boosting up once again. So he's actually growing at the normal rate again. But he does realize that when he splits himself up, they all have to be training, and that's how you maximize the leveling, which he finds interesting but does kind of make sense. So if he made 20 versions of himself, making all of them level up at the same time would be the best way for them to level, but unfortunately that just wouldn't be the case. He's just slower leveling when he's by himself. But theoretically, at least the way he understands, let's say they have 20 of them, but 10 of them are leveling up and the other 10 are doing other things, those other 10 are still getting levels. So that's still something to actually keep into account, at least for now. But the fact that he only has one other clone doesn't really matter too much at the moment. 15 days pass on. Android 21, Rautalia, and Majin Buu, or Naofumi Iwatani, is ready for the second wave. As they wait, and as the skies turn purple once again, they begin to teleport their way to the main boss. They arrive at the main boss, and it's a giant Dutchman ship. Naofumi throws a piece of himself on the Dutchman, trying to absorb him, but it just goes through him as if he was a hologram. Rautalia points out that the shadow and attacks it. Stabbing into the shadow makes a soul eater. With his own magic, he begins to use it and manipulate the soul eater to basically shut down, not work at all, and slowly but surely degrade and die. Naofumi throws a piece of himself on the soul eater, absorbing the soul eater and even absorbing the powers. Definitely will come in handy in the future. Just as he absorbs that Soul Eater though, another one appears. But that's not really a problem. Android 21 goes in a odd looking form that she gained. It seems that she has a more powered up state. It's like a darker purple color? He's not so sure, but her nails expand and she becomes extremely strong, being able to manipulate her body into more weaponry. Yes, she can't basically absorb like Naofumi does, but she can manipulate her body like he does in terms of weapons. Naofumi doesn't do this because, frankly, at the end of the day, he doesn't need sharp weapons. He uses ki for most of his attacks, but for her, it's a little different. Manipulating these weapons actually helps her do damage at a way faster rate, and she's able to cut through the Soul Eater as if it were nothing. The wave is wiped out, or at least that's what they thought. The wave's actually not over. There's something else that begins to come out of the wave, and it's, well, another person? They look up to see that it's a person, but it's a female? It's a woman with gems on her, and she begins to greet them, but in such a kind voice that Naofumi questions who the hell she even is and why is she coming out of the wave. She has heard about Naofumi, heard about this monster or this Majin hero that arrived in this world, that she personally is from another world, and that she means no harm to him because he is a fluke of a hero. At least that's what she's heard. But at the end of the day, all the heroes need to die. Naofumi stops her when she says this. They need to die. I mean, I had full plans of actually killing them. Technically, at least. What do you mean, technically? I had full plans of absorbing them. Making them mine, I guess you can say, which sounds kind of weird. But I absorbed them, gained their power. All of their power. Including my own. She hears this and is shocked. What? You're telling me that you can do that? How strong would you even be? Seriously, you don't seem like a bad person. Why are you exactly here? You say you want to kill the heroes, but you seem so peaceful. Do you really want to fight me? She shakes her head. No, not really. Not necessarily. But my world is in danger, Mr. Majin Hero. So that's why I'm here. Android 21 says that it's enough talk. If she really wants to fight, they can fight. But if she doesn't want to, she needs to leave now. In which she shrugs. Therese begins to walk toward them and blast them with multiple gems at the same time. But let's just say that Naofumi steps in front of his party, where Raphtalia is trying to guard herself, but he's just a shield for them. The blasts and the fire and the anything just bounces off like nothing, and Therese nods. I thought so. Well, Mr. Naofumi, I hope that you, well, and everything goes according to plan for you. Maybe one day we'll meet again. But here's the thing. If we do, then we'll have to fight. Me and my other friends. We'll have to try and kill you. Are you trying to convince me of that, or yourself, Miss Therese? I'll be seeing you. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Naofumi sends a blob of himself right at her, sending her right back into the wave and throwing her into the portal. But he retracts it once again, making sure that it doesn't get sucked in with her, and that he doesn't absorb her as well. They're surprised. Raphtalia and Android 21 think that she was blatantly kind of threatening them, so maybe it would have been the best to just, well, finish her off. Naofumi shakes his head, saying that that just wouldn't have been right. He looks to his right to see Siltvelt and sees that their wave is over as well. Well, I guess they had an easier time than us. Let's see, what about Melromark? He looks over to see that the wave is still going on. So he decides to not even really pay any attention to it and go back down to speak with the other people. Flying to the nobles of Siltvelt and begins to speak with them about what occurred during the wave. After that, they tell him that he should make a visit to Siltvelt. He flies there as well without his party, and frankly, these trips are super quick. He's extremely fast, so it doesn't really matter. When he arrives there, he begins to explain exactly what he saw and who he fought, and they say that they had nobody like that. There was no big hero. So that does confirm his suspicion, and she was correct. She was being honest that they're hunting the heroes. He looks up in the sky once again to see Melremark has their wave still going on, flying back toward his party, picking them up and telling them that they need to go. He flies off holding Raphtalia and Android 21, and Android 21 does tell him that he knows, or that does he know that she can fly. She's kind of part him. And he apologizes and goes to let her go, but she says that she likes this better as they fly off to Melremark, or at least where the wave is happening. Naofumi and his party arrive in Melremark, seeing the Dutchman's ship, but also the other 3 heroes down for the count. He looks to his right to see a woman in a black kimono as she nods toward Naofumi and jumps off, leaving into the wave, as if knowing that she did not have a chance in this fight, or maybe even knowing who Naofumi was. She must be connected to Therese. It has to be, right? So he decides that he'll go and speak with the other 3 heroes after he heals them up to a certain extent. He doesn't want to heal them up entirely because he doesn't want to have to deal with all of them at full strength, and he'll have to fight all 3 of them at the same time. But still, if she was able to defeat them, most likely he would be able to. He heals them up about 25% of the way. As they wake up, they're shocked to see him. Shocked to see Naofumi in front of them, asking what the hell does he think he's doing there. But Naofumi questions them. The real question is, how did you just lose to 1 person? How about it? You want to give me some insights? They begin to say that it was a fluke, that it's just not true, but Naofumi refuses to believe this and says that the other 3 heroes, you 3, are just pitiful, really. Frankly, I think it's time to wrap this up. Naofumi is about to do something, but the other 3 heroes question what the hell does that even mean? What is he gonna do? Naofumi then begins to split into a big, giant bubblegum goo surrounding the other 3 heroes as he consumes them entirely, absorbing all 3 of them at once. And Naofumi finishes up, and they question, or at least Raphtalia and Android 21, they ask why he would do that. They don't know the repercussions yet. But Naofumi finishes up absorbing them and says that the repercussions are nothing. He's realized pretty quickly after getting stronger and stronger that he has complete control. That he had to absorb these people, that they are just a problem. They're not good, and it's going to bring even more issues in the future. Naofumi basically tells them all of this and jumps off with them as well and begins to fly back to Shield Frieden. What Melremark doesn't know is that they just lost all 3 of their heroes. But Naofumi has full intention of protecting everybody, and someone else has something to ask of him relatively quickly. During this flight, he's actually is distracted by something below, and he dives back down, landing, and there's a woman standing there on 1 knee, kneeling in front of Naofumi. Hello, the Queen would like to speak with you. The Queen of Melremark. Please, honor her request. The shadow then disappears, and Naofumi is shocked to see this. The Queen, huh? I guess it doesn't hurt paying her a visit. How about it? Would y'all like to go with me, or should I go by myself? Android 21 says that you can go by yourself, and that she'll take Raphtalia back to Shield Frieden, and they have some stuff to do anyways. They should get some upgrades as soon as possible, especially with the waves up and coming. Raphtalia nods and wishes him good luck as Android 21 flies off with Raphtalia in arms. Naofumi then heads off toward the Queen, and when he arrives, the Queen and her guards are there ready to meet him. He introduces himself, but the Queen says she knows exactly who he is and apologizes for everything that occurred and has heard rumors of the absorption of the other 3 heroes. Naofumi nods and says that he did what must be done, and the Queen agrees, saying that they were incompetent, and frankly, they were unjust in what they've been doing. But also, one last thing, is that their church, the Church of the 3 Heroes, yeah, the stupid religion you guys believe in or whatever. Not a big fan of this whole religion idea anyways. Yes, but here's the problem. They're very corrupt. There's a problem going on within Melremark. Please, I beg you, can you solve this problem for me? Naofumi shrugs. I mean, I could, I mean, why not? What's your favorite hero? Let me know. And she's confused, saying that she doesn't have a favorite hero, not by all means. And he just shrugs. Alright, I'll just give you the spear hero. He rips a piece of himself off and he puts it on the ground, and immediately it turns into a version of himself, but he's holding the spear. Naofumi says that this person right here will handle the problem, and actually is kind of connected to Naofumi. Naofumi begins to basically give instructions to this clone, and the clone is able to work coherently on his own and even make his own decisions, talking to the queen as well. Naofumi nods and bows toward the queen and says that he only has respect for her because she wasn't in all this ordeal, but he does wish her the best of luck in at least trying to recover her whole kingdom. But frankly, that's not his problem. But hopefully she can figure it out. And with this person, or this version of him, it should help. He flies off as the queen thanks him and feels extremely bad about what's going on. But when Naofumi arrives back in Siltvelt, he's greeted by everybody and they're all celebrating, saying that the waves are finished, and they even heard what Naofumi did. Naofumi nods and says that he's going to have to visit the other countries and actually drop off some heroes to help them as well and explain the scenario. So he wants to take some of the noblemen of theirs away as well, at least from Siltvelt and Siltvelt. They agree, and Naofumi will take some people from Siltvelt and from Siltvelt and head over to the other countries. But how will the other countries take this news? Will they be happy to gain a hero themselves? Will the challenges of head of Naofumi actually be able to be conquered? And who is this other person that is not so happy about the other heroes being quote-unquote dead? And what will be their response to this whole thing occurring? Well, you'll have to find out on the next part, and the final one, of What If Naofumi was the legendary Majin hero. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, sub, and comment down below any suggestions you have for future what ifs. And this what if, I mean, you know, if I don't already get it all done and over with by the time you see this, but that's beyond the point. Hope y'all enjoyed. I hope all y'all have an amazing day, and make sure to leave a like, sub, and comment down below, and also hit the sub, you know what I'm saying? Hit the sub button. You know, we just over 20K, I believe. I think we just hit it, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.
I don't wanna waste what's left.